The male protagonist's master and lover 10 years ago, being ripped of clothes and humiliated in public by humans. After the master's dignity as a witch was trampled, the humans shot him dead, but even so they were not satisfied until the witch's body is beheaded. This farce ended. The hero is the witch's apprentice. He was imprisoned forever. An accident. 10 years later, the hero regains his freedom. The first thing he has to do is to go through human. In fact, in ancient times, the relationship between humans and witches is still harmonious because God created mankind. He gave his power to the witch, let them lead humanity. However, after the development of technology, so I made a weapon against the witch to kill all the witches. Humans do this. I just don't want to ask the witch for help anymore. Of course, the most important thing is humans no longer have a sense of awe. In this massacre, the protagonist's master is the last surviving witch. In order to survive, they can only flee across the desert to other countries. On the way, the male protagonist couldn't help complaining. Rather than living this life of escape, it would be better to use magic to destroy the country that is chasing them. But the master always kept his mission in mind, unwilling to actively kill humans. I just hope to find a country that accepts witches. However, while they were still looking at the map in the desert, the army hunting the witch has found them. But the master is a high-level witch who can manipulate freezing magic. These pursuers are no match for him. Just cast a spell and it will all be solved. But what neither the hero nor the master noticed was the pursuers have locators on them. The next second they flew up. The witch then realized humans have actually mastered teleportation. Transmit the target to the specified location via satellite. This is something that even the witch clan cannot accomplish. Soon the hero and the master were teleported to the central square of the empire. See the king on the stage. The male protagonist rushed forward without thinking to buy time for the master, but he was still too naive. I was stopped by the guards after running a few steps. However, it is also the master of the guard. He asked the king to release the hero. Suddenly he used the absolute spiritual magic. Kill all the people in this country. But what the master didn't expect was his magic was only halfway through when it suddenly disappeared. The king on the stage also laughed when he saw this scene. It turns out that they have already made a magic. Then the king walked up to the male protagonist's master, a witch who can't use magic, just a woman. The audience saw the witch's upper body naked. They also took out their mobile phones to take pictures. The male protagonist next to him couldn't help himself when he saw this scene. The soldier ran towards the king, but he's still too weak. After running a few steps, he was pinned to the ground again. But this also annoyed the king. He ordered to kill the male protagonist on the spot. Emperor, I was wrong. She's not worth paying attention to. The emperor's statement. The witch is damn, but she is different. People like you I abducted, becoming a slave. Seeing master give up his dignity to plead for me. The male protagonist can only write magic spells on the ground that cannot be released. But the king suddenly pulled out his pistol. It was aimed directly at the master's head, and after beating the master's body to pieces, the king was not satisfied. He then ordered his men to behead his body. Then he held it high up in front of everyone. After the master's death, maybe his begging for mercy worked. The hero was not killed by the king, just put in jail. 10 years later, in the imperial internment camp, two prisoners are fighting for the bread in their hands. Seeing that neither of them was willing to give in, a pink-haired girl named Darius handed over his bread. However, her kindness was not only not received well by the other party, I even got scolded for being nosy. See this situation. Her companion Anna couldn't help but worry about her health. Although Darius deliberately behaved very energetically, but Anna is not optimistic about their future. No matter how technology advances, humanity is still in an endless struggle. They clearly said, as long as the witch is destroyed, humans will be happy. Why is this the case now? Frustration with Anna. Darius playfully took out his two hands. She comforted Anna with the conversation between the knight and the princess. However, just when the two girls were trying to have fun in the midst of suffering, the guard suddenly asked prisoner number 218 to stand up, and the people who were taken out like this before never came back. With fear, Anna slowly lowered her head. Her number plate clearly reads 218. Come out quickly. It's me. Okay, follow me. That number. Darius replaced Anna at this time. Met the warden here. Unexpectedly, the other party asked him to take off his clothes right away. Seeing that Darius was unwilling, the warden was angry. Before offering the captives here to those great men, they have to do a review in advance. You have to know that everything here is paid for with the hard-earned money of the citizens of the empire. Prisoners like Darius must be obedient, or it would be the same fate as these girls on the sofa. Seeing Darius' fear, the warden was so happy. This is his favorite expression. I believe that Darius will be able to sell for a good price. However, when the warden was about to send the photo to headquarters, Darius took the opportunity to bite him hard. While this pervert is wailing, Darius snatched his phone and ran away. He wanted to open all the cell doors while escaping, but I didn't expect that this phone uses a voice recognition system. So after experiencing countless failures, he finally found the right way to open it. Suddenly, suddenly, all the prison doors opened. The chaotic crowd caused the guards to lose track of Darius. So when they asked for support from above, Darius ran to a big door in a panic. Under his command, the door that had been sealed for 10 years finally opened. I don't want to. Oops, they're all open. Really? I'm the one who's going to beat you to death. I'm leaving first. I'm leaving first. He finally broke free from his cage and was ready to take revenge on humans. Looking at the guards who were too frightened to move, he rushed forward without saying a word. During the stalemate, he grabbed the baton and pinned the other person to the ground. But this is not the end. I don't know how many times the male protagonist has imagined the scene in his mind in the past 10 years. Several guards were unable to fight back against his calm attack. I can only lie on the ground and wait for death to come. At this time, the girl who helped the hero out of trouble suddenly caught his attention. Ignore the girl's frightened eyes. The male protagonist slowly put the gun to his head, accompanied by a gunshot. The girl was frightened and fell to the ground. His handcuffs were also opened. After doing all this, the male protagonist turned around expressionlessly and walked out of here. He first snatched back his magic hair handle. Then we came to the highest point in the city. He wants to take revenge on humanity here. Technological summoning magic. Let's kill the national thief. At the same time, upon learning of the news, the National Security Agency dispatched their best man. However, the first thing Huang Mao did after he came out, he actually killed all the rubbish in the prison first. Although the male protagonist's shot has been on the news, but he didn't feel happy at all, because if the master knew everything he did, I guess I should teach him a lesson. But now 10 years have passed. The master's eyes and voice before his death, it is still clear in the male protagonist's mind as if it happened yesterday. He swore to make these humans pay with blood. The next second, a big hand suddenly appeared on the road. I quietly watched the humans below fleeing madly. Soon, under the destruction of the male protagonist, the originally peaceful city instantly turned into purgatory. But it's not enough. The male protagonist's ultimate goal is the dog emperor who killed his master with his own hands. At this time, the country finally dispatched tanks to deal with the Colossus soldiers. However, no matter how they target the male protagonist, tank shells just can't fly in a straight line. On the contrary, humans suffered heavy casualties in this artillery attack. Seeing this scene, the male protagonist was so excited. Then he controlled the Colossus soldiers to use the debris of the building to knock down all the tanks. Don't think that the male protagonist's growth has a blank period of nearly 10 years, but this also means that he has endless time to study how to kill humans. If this is what you call righteousness, the faith of this country, you're just an asshole. You're just an asshole. Just when the male protagonist fell into madness, the yellow-haired man in the distance has already determined his position through the telescope. Then countless fighter planes launched missiles at the giant god soldier. This sudden attack caused the male protagonist to fall down accidentally. He couldn't help but feel that his body had become sluggish. But how can a mere human be the hero's opponent? Soon, under his reckless counterattack, the soldiers only had one officer left. However, just as the male protagonist was about to kill, Darius finally arrived at the scene and stopped him. Darius begged the male protagonist not to continue. Many people have died in this country. However, Darius' request did not make the hero show mercy. Instead, it aroused his dangerous, especially when the master's name came out of Darius' mouth. The male protagonist was completely angry. In his eyes, Darius is just a lobbyist sent by humans. Humans will always only use these despicable means. If it was a fair fight, how could his master die? Seeing that the male protagonist has fallen into madness, Darius reveals that he is also a witch. But the male protagonist, who didn't want to hear this, became even angrier. The witches were extinct 10 years ago. Even if what Darius said is true, then why didn't they come to rescue his master? Darius explained that they were on the run and could do nothing, but there is still a way. They can save the master. However, the male protagonist felt that Darius was insulting his master. After all, how can a dead person be resurrected? Then he raised his sword and prepared to kill the lying woman in front of him. Darius did not resist. He just smiled and said it was great to meet the hero. At this moment, the male protagonist seemed to see the shadow of his master in him. The male protagonist couldn't hold it anymore.